has awakened him to love. He scoffs at the acts and thoughts of lovers throughout history.
Love and Death. Love is only the beginning. Death is the price. By Rachel Lawson. Prologue. Long, long before Blake Alexander ever drew his first breath in 1978, before Angela Alexander ever opened her eyes in 1979, before the twins were born or died or were born again, there was fate. Not the idea, not the metaphor, the being. He stood in the halls of time, where every moment shimmered like a star suspended in water. The air hummed with the weight of futures not yet lived. The timekeeper watched from his throne of gears and light, silent and wary. Fate ignored him. He always did. Instead, he traced a single glowing thread with the tip of his finger, a thread that pulsed with blue lightning and golden time magic intertwined. A thread belonging to two souls who had not yet met. Blake Alexander, Fate murmured, reluctant air, celestial spark. My future king, the thread flickered. And Angela Alexander, he continued, voice softening with something like amusement. Chronomancer, heiress of time, my future queen. The thread brightened, resisting him. Fate smiled. They will fight me, he said. They always do. He tugged the thread gently. It snapped back, defiant. He laughed. Oh, you stubborn children. You think you have choices. You think you can outrun destiny. He lifted the thread, weaving it into the tapestry of the future. You cannot. Behind him, the timekeeper finally spoke. You meddle too much, Argent. Fate didn't turn. I guide. You manipulate. I prepare. You destroy. Fate's smile sharpened. I create what must be created. The timekeeper's eyes narrowed. And what must be created this time? Fate held up the glowing thread, now split into 4 strands, 2 bright, 2 dark, all intertwined. A family, Fate said. A dynasty. A storm. He let the thread fall. And a war that will reshape the realms. The timekeeper stepped forward. You cannot force them. I don't need to, Fate replied. They will walk the path themselves. And if they refuse? Fate finally turned, eyes gleaming like cold stars. They won't. He stepped into a portal of silver light, vanishing into the future he had already written. The timekeeper watched the thread pulse on the floor, trembling with the weight of what was coming. Blake, Angela, he whispered, forgive me, for destiny had already begun, and fate was waiting. Love and death. Love is only the beginning, death is the price. In the year 1995, 17-year-old Blake Alexander and 16-year-old Angela Alexander are doing what they do best at family political gatherings, hiding from their chaotic, magical relatives. They aren't friends, they aren't close, and they certainly aren't in love. They're cousins, painfully aware of it, and talking only because the alternative is dealing with adults obsessed with duty, prophecy, and magical politics. They sit together, watching the grown-ups argue about them like they're breeding stock. Angela sighs. If one more adult says duty, I'm hexing someone. Blake snorts. If one more adult says Alexander legacy, I'm running away. Before Angela can reply, two teenagers, about 15, walk up to them. They look like, well, them. Not just similar, identical. Blake stiffens. Angela, tell me you're seeing this. I'm seeing it, she whispers. Are they magicians? Clones? Doppelgangers? The boy grins. Hi, Dad. Blake's soul leaves his body. Why are you calling me that? Blake demands. Because you are my dad, you old fossil. The boy laughs. Angela gives a strangled, horrified smile. You look my age, Blake protests. I'm 17. I can't be your father. I don't have kids. Who's your mother supposed to be? The boy points at Angela. Her, obviously. Angela chokes on air. What? We're 15, the boy adds. I'm Lance. This is my twin sister, Kira. They don't know we're from their future, Kira mutters. Lance, you're scaring them. This is impossible, Angela cries. She's my cousin, Blake snaps. I would never. That's disgusting. Angela looks ready to faint. I think I'm going to be sick. Blake's grandfather, Fred Alexander, notices the commotion and walks over. Are you two all right? Who are your friends? Psychos, Blake mutters, gratefully accepting a hug. You'll never change, Lance says, laughing. That is rude, boy, Fred scolds. But they are, Blake insists. Angela looks like she wants to crawl into the earth and die. Hello, Gramps, Lance says cheerfully, hugging Fred. Fred recoils. Who are you? Their son, Lance says proudly. Excuse him, Kira hisses. My brother is needy. Me? Needy? Lance scoffs. I don't need anything. He sounds like you, Blake, Fred says dryly. Then to the twins. Who are you, really? We told you, Lance says. We're their children, Lance and Kira Alexander, time travelers from the year 2020. Oh, time travelers, Fred says, nodding like this is normal. You believe them now? Blake snaps. Time travel is possible, Fred says. I've done it once or twice. Blake groans. Angela whispers, horrified. You mean with him? Lance immediately vomits on the floor. Fred cleans it with a spell. Thanks, Gramps, Lance says. Do we need a paternity test, Dad? Lance grumbles. This is insane. You're telling me, Blake mutters. We're here on a mission, Kira says, dragging her brother away. Fate, divine justice, all that. Come on, Lance. What was that? Blake shouts, storming off. Angela walks away in the opposite direction, pale and shaking. Fred stays behind, thinking. Later that night, long after the forum had dissolved into bickering and gossip, King Fred Alexander of Earth gathered with his brothers in a quiet chamber lit only by candles. Reynard, the Red Fox, King of Mars, lounged against a marble pillar. Robert, King of Time and Angela's grandfather, stood with his hands clasped behind his back, expression unreadable. Fred paced. These strangers, Reynard said, the ones claiming Blake and Angela as their parents. What do we make of them? They don't even love each other, Robert protested. Angela told me herself. Blake said the same. But the children exist, Fred replied firmly. So they will. Reynard raised a brow. Were they lying? Or are they truly time travelers, Rob? Robert sighed. My assistant, the timekeeper, confirmed it. They are exactly who they claim to be. I knew it, Fred said. I saw them. They were so like Blake and Angela, it was uncanny. They must be their children. Reynard folded his arms. So, what do we do? Fred stopped pacing. We arrange their marriage before the children come. Robert nodded. The timekeeper and I agree. Blake is heir to the Celestial Empire, the entire solar system. Angela is heiress to the Empire of Time. Their children would be powerful in magic and in rank. A union between them strengthens all realms. Reynard smirked. Speaking of unions, here come the lovebirds now. Blake and Angela approached, both looking like they'd rather face a dragon. Don't call us lovebirds, Blake snapped. I don't love her. I never could. She's family. I don't want him either, Angela said, arms crossed. He moans constantly, and he's my cousin. Fred waved this off. Cousin. Marriage isn't taboo among our people. It strengthens magical bloodlines. Outbreeding weakens the gift. Blake threw up his hands. You do know arranged marriages are illegal in Australia, completely illegal. Fred frowned. You already have children. The law cannot undo what fate has written. Angela's face drained of color. Blake looked like he might faint. They exchanged a look, the rare kind where they silently agreed on something. Debating was pointless. Without another word, they turned and walked away, leaving the three kings to plan their future. Blake and Angela sat stiffly across from their future children, doing their best to act normal. They weren't succeeding. They were resigned to the fact that Lance and Kira existed, but they were far from happy about it. So, Angela said awkwardly, what do you two do in the future? Kira's eyes narrowed. Classified. Lance smirked. Oh, come on, Kira, Dad would love to know. Blake tensed. Why do I feel like I won't? Because you won't, Kira snapped. Lance ignored her. He leaned forward, grinning with wicked delight. We're fate's executioners. Angela froze. Blake blinked. You're what? We kill bad people, Lance said cheerfully. It's a job. Someone's got to do it. Blake didn't just react. He detonated. A crack of blue electricity arced off his skin, lighting the air with raw, celestial fury. Angela jumped back, eyes wide. Lance! Kira shouted. You sadistic idiot! You only told them to get a rise out of Dad. It worked, Lance said smugly. Because you're cruel, Kira hissed, and irresponsible. The twins stormed off, still arguing, Kira furious, Lance defensive, leaving their teenage parents in stunned silence. Blake stood, trembling, electricity still crawling over his arms. My children are killers, he whispered, horrified. Angela wrapped her arms around herself. My future self, let this happen. I let them become this. If I meet this fate, Blake growled, voice shaking with rage and power, I'll kill them. Angela didn't argue. She couldn't. She was angry. She was scared. And she was ashamed of children she hadn't even had yet. Blake was still simmering with leftover rage when a voice drifted out of the shadows. Hello, Sparky. I noticed you have an electric personality. I simply had to meet you. Blake groaned. Ha, ha, hilarious. He turned sharply. Who are you? What do you want, besides mocking me? The stranger smiled like someone who enjoyed being disliked. I thought I'd introduce myself since you wanted to meet me. I wanted to meet you. I don't even know you, Blake snapped. He already hated this man. Oh, but you do. The stranger's eyes gleamed. I am fate, and I heard you wanted to kill me. Blake's stomach dropped. Fate? He'd only been venting. He hadn't meant it. Not really. Fate stepped closer, voice cold and amused. You should be proud of your children. They're good little workers where we come from. Humans call them serial killers, deluded mortals. Blake's breath caught. Why did you do this to my family? It was their duty to serve me, Fate said, smiling with a predator's calm. And one day, you will too. Blake's eyes widened. Something ancient and furious stirred inside him. Me? No, never. Oh, you will, Fate whispered. You will be my most devoted servant. Blake erupted. arcs of blue electricity snapping off him like lightning made of rage. Fate didn't flinch. He simply tilted his head, amused. Then he vanished, teleporting away before Blake could unleash whatever was building inside him. The sudden absence made Blake even angrier. He stood alone, shaking, electricity crawling over his skin, breath ragged. Fate had seen something in him, something Blake didn't want to believe existed. As the days blurred into months and the months into years, the Alexander dynasty prepared for the wedding with almost religious zeal. Everyone was excited, except the bride and groom. Blake and Angela were resigned, but deeply unhappy. They feared what their union would create. They feared the future they'd already seen. And worst of all, they didn't love each other. To Blake, kissing Angela felt like kissing a sister he didn't even have. To Angela, marrying Blake felt like stepping into a prophecy she wanted no part of. But the kings had spoken, fate had spoken, and the twins existed. So the wedding was inevitable. Lance, of course, was thrilled, not for romantic reasons, but because teasing his dad about the wedding was his new favorite hobby. Kira was genuinely excited, though secretly terrified her parents would bolt. 2 years passed, and so, at 18 and 19, the reluctant heiress of time and the reluctant heir of the solar system walked down the aisle in front of their families, their courts, and their future children. Angela's father, Chance, gave her away. Lance stood proudly as Blake's best man. Kira, radiant and nervous, served as a bridesmaid. The ceremony was beautiful. The emotions were not. Lance's best man speech made Blake blush and Kira bury her face in her hands. When the vows came, they promised to love each other for as long as they lived, words that felt like shackles to Blake and doom to Angela. Kira thought it was romantic. Lance thought it was hilarious. And then Lance threw up on Blake. Blake stared at his ruined suit in horror. "You have to make this all about you." Angela rushed to her son. "He's sick. He ruined my suit. I rented this," Blake moaned. "He is emotionally unstable," Kira snapped. "He does that when he sees you and Mum together." She glared at Lance with enough force to kill. "You can clean it with magic, selfish brat," Angela hissed at Blake as she fussed over her son. Lance just smiled, delighted with himself. "He's enjoying this," Blake muttered, rolling his eyes. With a flick of his hand, Blake cleaned the mess from his clothes, then stormed out of the room, humiliated and furious. Kira rounded on her brother. "You've ruined it!" She punched him in the stomach, leaving him winded, then hurried after her father. Lance stood there, stunned, clutching his ribs as the wedding party dissolved into chaos around him. Blake and Angela's marriage was rocky, not explosive, not violent, just two unhappy young people trying to survive a future they never chose. Tonight was no different. Angela stood in the kitchen, staring at the smoking pan, mortified. "I burned it again." Blake poked the charred mess with a fork. "Angel, you burned water." Her face crumpled. "You're heartless." She burst into tears. Blake froze. He hadn't meant it. He was tired, stressed, and scared. But he wasn't cruel, not to her. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. "I'm sorry, Angel. I didn't mean that. I'm just frustrated. I'll order a pizza, okay? Not everyone can cook." She sniffed. "I wanted to make something nice." "It wasn't you," Blake said gently. "I have a problem." Angela wiped her eyes. "What is it, Blake?" He swallowed hard. "I met fate." Angela stiffened. "What were they like?" Blake's voice cracked. "He said I'll be his servant. Like the kids, he said it's inevitable." Blue fire flickered in his eyes, tears that crystallized into tiny star sapphires as they fell. Angela's breath caught. "Oh no. Blake." She sat beside him on the couch, her own eyes filling. "That's terrible. That means our family life is going to be very difficult." Blake nodded, trembling. "I don't want to become what he wants." Angela took his hand. "You won't. Not if I'm here." They sat together, waiting for the pizza delivery, both crying, quietly, honestly. for the first time since their forced marriage. And in that fragile moment, something shifted. They weren't lovers, they weren't even friends, but they were two frightened young people, opening up, leaning on each other, growing closer in the only way they knew how, not through romance, not through destiny, but through shared fear and shared hope. Blake never expected his internship in the coroner's department to collide with his own future, but it did. He'd been cataloging a body, a known criminal, when he found the marks. Precise, magical, familiar, too familiar. He recognized the pattern instantly. He'd seen it before, on Lance's hands, on Kira's aura. His stomach twisted. He hid the evidence, buried it, filed the report as inconclusive. Not even Angela knew. When Blake next saw the twins, he pulled them aside, voice low and shaking. "We need to talk." Lance raised a brow. "About what?" Blake's jaw clenched. "I found something at work. Evidence of you two killing criminals." Lance didn't flinch. "We told you what we did." "I didn't believe you were serious," Blake hissed. "I haven't told anyone what I found. I buried the evidence. Even your mum doesn't know." "I was serious," Lance said simply. "It was crazy bragging, you psycho." "I'm not a psycho. For the 100th time," Lance snapped, defensive and wounded. Blake scoffed bitterly. "Then why do you kill and boast about it, you braggart?" Lance's expression shifted. Something dark, something knowing. "Because you're one of us." Blake recoiled like he'd been struck. "I am not. Never." He stormed off, shaking with fury and fear, blue sparks flickering at his fingertips. Lance stood frozen, confused, until the truth hit him like a punch. Blake didn't know. He didn't know what he became. He didn't know what fate turned him into. He didn't know the role he played in the future. And for the first time in his life, Lance felt something unfamiliar. Pity. Blake was sitting under a tree on campus, eating lukewarm takeaway between lectures, when the air shifted. A ripple of wrongness. A presence he recognized instantly. Fate appeared beside him, like a shadow stepping into sunlight. Blake groaned. "Go away. I'm at uni. You shouldn't be here." Fate smirked. "You have classes. I have eternity, and you need training for your new job." "I don't work for you," Blake snapped. "And I never will." "You will," Fate said, brushing off the protest like lint. "In fact, you already do." Blake clenched his jaw. "What do you want?" "For you to do your job," Fate said simply. "I only intern on weekends," Blake retorted. "When I'm not studying." Fate rolled his eyes. "No, Blake. Death needs a king. You will be that king." "Never," Blake hissed, grabbing his bag and standing. "Find someone else." He stormed off across the lawn, refusing to look back. Fate watched him go, smiling with cold amusement. "You already walk with my executioners," he murmured. "You are closer than you think." Blake was hunched over his university homework, buried in anatomy notes and medical terminology, when a scream tore through the house. "Angela!" He bolted from his desk. The kitchen was an inferno. Angela was literally on fire, flames licking up her arms and shoulders. She was too shocked to even scream again. Blake didn't hesitate. He threw out his hands and smothered the flames with magic, extinguishing them in a burst of blue light. Angela collapsed to her knees, badly burned, shaking. Blake dropped beside her. Angela, look at me." Her skin was blistered, raw. Without thinking, Blake pressed his hands over the burns and poured healing magic into her. The wounds closed, the pain faded, and her clothes, burned away by the fire, crumbled to ash. Angela gasped, suddenly aware she was unclothed. She covered herself instinctively, cheeks burning with embarrassment. Blake froze, not staring, not gawking, but terrified. His hands trembled. His eyes were wide with the fear of almost losing her. He leaned forward and pressed a quick, desperate kiss to her forehead, a frightened, instinctive gesture of relief. "I don't know what I'd do if I lost you," he whispered, voice shaking. Angela's embarrassment softened. She saw the fear in him, the sincerity. She gave him a small, grateful kiss on the cheek. "Thank you for saving me. You just passed my doctor's exam." They both laughed, shaky, exhausted, relieved. Blake helped her stand, keeping his eyes respectfully averted. "Why were you on fire?" he asked gently. Angela blushed. "I was trying to cook dinner, with magic. It didn't go well." "All that matters is you're all right," Blake said. "You might want to change your look, my angel." Angela suddenly remembered her state and turned away, flustered. "I'll go get cleaned up and dressed. Thank you for being you." She kissed his cheek again, a soft, grateful touch, then hurried off to shower and change. Blake stood alone in the kitchen, heart pounding, realizing he had never been so scared in his life. With Lance and Kira arriving too late, Angela was alone in the courtyard, gathering herbs for dinner and trying not to burn them this time, when she felt it, a ripple of wrongness in the air. A presence. A shadow. She turned. A man stepped out from behind the old stone archway. His eyes were wild, his aura fractured, his magic unstable. A rogue magician, one of the kind the twins hunted, and he was staring at her like she was prey. "There you are," he hissed. "Time witch. Fate's little butcher." Angela froze. I think you're mistaken." "You can't fool me, Kira," he snarled. "You killed my brother." Angela's blood ran cold. He thought she was her daughter. "Please," she whispered, backing away. "I'm not—" He raised his hand. Magic gathered, lethal, sharp, aimed straight at her heart. Angela screamed, and Blake appeared. He didn't think, he didn't hesitate, he didn't even shout her name, he just moved. He threw himself between Angela and the killing spell. The blast hit him square in the chest. The world went silent. Blake staggered, eyes wide, blue sparks flickering weakly around him. He looked down at the smoking wound in his chest, then up at Angela with a soft, confused expression. "Angel," he whispered. He collapsed into her arms. "No, no, Blake, stay with me," Angela cried, lowering him gently to the ground. Her hands shook as she pressed them over the wound, trying to heal him, trying to stop the bleeding, trying to stop time itself. But nothing worked. His magic flickered like a dying star. "Why did you do that?" she sobbed. Blake managed a faint smile. "Didn't want to lose you." His hand slipped from hers. His body went still. Blake Alexander died in her arms. Angela's scream tore through the courtyard, raw and ancient. Something inside her broke, and something else woke. Time shuddered, the air warped. Her grief ignited her magic, not the timid chronomancy she'd always feared, but the full, terrible power of the heiress of time. She rose to her feet, eyes glowing white gold, tears burning down her cheeks like molten glass. "You killed my husband," she whispered. The rogue magician stumbled back, terrified. I didn't know." Angela didn't hear him. She didn't care. She unleashed her full power, a tidal wave of temporal force that struck the rogue like a collapsing star. He didn't even have time to scream. When it was over, the courtyard was silent. Angela fell to her knees beside Blake's body, shaking, sobbing, clutching him to her chest. And that was when the twins arrived. A burst of blue-white light split the air, and Lance and Kira appeared, breathless, weapons drawn. Too late. Kira froze first, her eyes widened, her face drained of color. No, Dad." Lance dropped to his knees beside them, hands trembling. "We were tracking that rogue. We were right behind him. We were—" He couldn't finish. Angela looked up at them, broken. He saved me. Kira swallowed hard, forcing herself into cold, clinical focus, the way she always did when the world fell apart. "Lance," she whispered, "help me." Together, the twins gently lifted Blake's body from Angela's arms. Lance's hands shook violently. Kira's jaw was clenched so tight it looked painful. "We'll look after him," Kira said softly. "We know what to do." Angela blinked through tears. Where are you taking him?" Lance's voice cracked. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere only we can go." Kira nodded. "We'll bring him back, or we'll try." Angela reached out, touching Blake's hand one last time. "Please, don't let him be alone. He won't be, Kira promised. The twins vanished with their father's body in a burst of time magic, leaving Angela alone in the ruined courtyard, shaking, grieving, and surrounded by the echoes of a future she had never wanted. And somewhere far away, fate smiled. Hours later, in a place that felt forgotten by time, Blake Alexander lay dead on the floor of what could only generously be called a broom closet. The room was tiny, wooden, and dimly lit by a single candle stuck into an old bottle. Dusty shelves lined the walls, cluttered with jars, scrolls, and things best left unnamed. It smelled faintly of herbs, old magic, and damp wood. Kira sat on an overturned crate, calmly reading a thick, leather-bound book, as though this were the most ordinary evening in the world. Lance sat cross-legged on the floor beside Blake's body, playing solitaire with a battered deck of cards. He groaned loudly. What's taking him so long? It should be done by now. How should I know? Kira hissed without looking up. I'm not him. Lance flicked a card across the floor in frustration. He's worse than Dad, and Dad takes forever to get ready. Kira rolled her eyes. Just wait. The closet door creaked open. A man stepped inside, confused, blinking, looking around like someone waking from a dream. Am I dead? He asked. Lance threw his hands up. Finally. You took your time. We've been waiting for hours. The man scowled. I had to walk here. It's not exactly a short commute. Blake groaned from the floor, sitting up slowly. Insane sadist. Lance snorted. You're not dead, Dad. If you were, you wouldn't be asking. Blake stared at him, bewildered. But I was killed. I felt it. It's not your time, Kira said simply, closing her book. Might have been a miracle, Lance added, lying through his teeth with a grin. Blake believed him instantly. He wanted to. He needed to. Anything was better than the truth the twins weren't ready to tell him. He rubbed his chest, still shaken. I don't want to go through that again, or see her like that again. Kira and Lance exchanged a look, one of those silent sibling conversations that said everything. Come on, Kira said softly. We'll take you home. The twins helped Blake to his feet. He was shaky, pale, but alive. Alive. They guided him out of the broom closet, through the dim corridor, and into the world again. Angela was sitting on the floor of their home, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the doorway with hollow eyes. She hadn't moved since the twins left with Blake's body. She hadn't slept. She hadn't eaten. She just waited. The air shimmered, and Blake stepped through, alive, whole, breathing. Angela's breath caught. Blake? He gave her a small, uncertain smile. Angel. She ran to him, throwing her arms around him, sobbing into his shoulder. I saw you die. I saw you die. I'm here, he whispered, holding her tightly. I'm here. Lance leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying to look cool, but failing miserably. His eyes were red. Kira stood beside him, calm but exhausted. We told you we'd look after him. Angela looked at them both, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Thank you. Blake held her closer, feeling her shaking against him. He didn't understand how he was alive. He didn't understand what had happened. But he understood this. He never wanted to leave her again. Blake sat alone in the quiet of their bedroom, staring at his hands, alive, breathing, whole, a miracle. But miracles didn't happen to Alexander's, not without a price. He was still trying to understand how he had returned from death when the air rippled and fate appeared. No warning, no sound, just there. Enjoying your second chance? Fate asked, voice smooth and cold. You should. You were saved for a reason. Blake stiffened. Go away. Fate ignored him. You are a special man, Blake Alexander. You were spared because you are needed. You are the liaison between life and death, the Grand Reaper. Blake's stomach twisted. I said go away. The door opened. Angela stepped inside and froze. She saw Fate's back first. Who are you, and why are you bothering my husband? Fate jumped, startled. He clearly hadn't wanted her to see him. Angela walked straight to Blake's side, protective and furious. When Fate turned, Her eyes widened. You, she hissed. You shouldn't be here. I thought you were human. Blake blinked. Have you met him too, my angel? Yes, Angela said slowly. In my theater group. He's an actor. Blake stared. Fate is an actor. Angela narrowed her eyes. He's fate? Argent? Are you trying to groom us for something? Groom is such a strong word, Argent said, suddenly defensive. I am helping you reach your potential. I don't want to be your special plaything, Blake snapped. Thanks for bringing me back, but I want nothing more than to be left alone with my angel. He put his arm around Angela's shoulders, pulling her close. You can keep the woman. I don't want her, Argent snapped. Angela's eyes flashed. Excuse me? Argent ignored her. You are destined to serve me, Blake. Just like your children, I will return, and I'll be watching you. He stepped backward into a swirling portal of silver light. See you at the theater, Angela. Then he was gone. The room fell silent. Blake exhaled shakily. Fear, he's not lying. I think he's been grooming us our whole lives, and he won't stop. Not ever. Angela leaned into him. At least we have each other. Yes, Blake whispered. We do. A retching sound echoed behind them. They turned. Lance stood in the doorway, wiping his mouth, looking miserable. That's disgusting, boy, Blake muttered. Did he send you to talk us into following him? No, Kira said, stepping in behind her brother. The timekeeper sent us. Not fate. He followed us here to drag us back to our time. He only bothered you because of us. So with us gone, Lance added sadly, he'll leave you alone for a while. Angela's eyes filled with tears. You're going? Why did he send you here? Blake asked. To make sure you two are married, Lance said. It's a fixed point in time. We came now to say goodbye, Kira said softly. Angela pulled them both into a tight hug. It was good meeting you, both of you. Blake crossed his arms, trying to look annoyed and failing. You made my life hell, but I'll miss you. Kira smiled faintly. You made us better than we deserved to be. Lance hugged Blake tightly. We may kill for fate, but you will rule him. Blake froze. He said I serve him in the future. You're a bureaucrat, Lance said. He's more of an annoying boss than a master. He thinks he's a king. You run the afterlife like an office. Blake stared at him, aghast. Kira stepped back. Bye, Mum, Dad. We'll be back before you know. Oh, really? Blake muttered. Bye, Dad. Mum, Lance said. Bye, boy, girl, Blake replied. Bye, Lance. Kira, Angela whispered, hugging them again. A portal opened, swirling gold and blue. The timekeeper's voice echoed through it. Come, Lance, Kira, time to go. The twins stepped into the portal and were gone. Angela and Blake stood together in the quiet that followed. They knew a war was coming. They knew Argent was watching. They knew destiny was closing in, but they chose each other anyway. Blake broke first, collapsing into Angela's arms, sobbing. Cry, my love, Angela whispered. Cry. Don't bottle it in. My love, Blake said, voice breaking. They kissed, truly kissed, for the first time. Not out of fear, not out of duty, but out of love. Epilogue. In the halls of time, a dimension away from mortal reality, a pool of shimmering light reflected every moment that ever was, and every moment that ever would be. Lance Alexander leaned over it and threw up again. Tempest, the timekeeper, stood beside him with his arms folded, looking like a man who had run out of patience several centuries ago. For the love of the timeline, Tempest muttered. I cannot believe you sometimes. Lance wiped his mouth with the back of his sleeve. Why do they have to kiss like that? It's disgusting. They're our parents. Tempest raised an eyebrow. Where exactly do you think we came from? Lance gagged again. Thanks, Temp. Really helpful. Tempest sighed, the long-suffering sigh of an immortal older brother who had seen too much. Just be grateful they're finally getting along, he said. The timeline is stabilizing, for now. Lance groaned. Great. Wonderful. Can we stop watching them now? Tempest glanced into the pool, where Blake and Angela held each other tightly, unaware of the eyes upon them. No, he said quietly, because fate is watching too. Lance's expression darkened. Tempest placed a hand on his shoulder. Come on, we have work to do. The pool of time rippled, the image fading. The brothers stepped away into the endless corridors of eternity. And far below, in the mortal world, Blake and Angela held each other, unaware of the storm gathering in the shadows of time.
Awakens the dreamer to a new world. The wise man before love has awakened him to love. He scoffs at the acts and thoughts of lovers throughout history. He would hesitate at self-sacrifice for another, but under love's influence, he would die for a smile from the one he loves. Love has its charms and powers. It defeats the mighty. It makes fools of us all. Love is intoxicating. It can make a drunk of a sober man. Love can make a moment into an eternity to a lover. Love can turn an hour apart into a year. Love can kill. Love can bring hope. Love can conquer time, and it can transform people. Love can bring people together or destroy them.